Hello. So I wanted to start out by helping with the processing side of things, recognizing that there's a lot of things coming up, and I've seen a few posts that are really helping to shift into like gratitude and moving things forward. But I'm a firm believer that in order to get to that place, we need to unload a little bit. So there's a practice that I like sharing with people that I have called the VPK. I know, super original. It's literally just the first letter of the practice itself. And I'll link below to a blog post that I did about this so you can actually read about it and understand a little bit more beyond my explanation in this video. So basically what it is it's a writing or journaling practice. The reason we like to do the journaling and actually use the handwriting is that by writing things out, you actually have access to your subconscious mind. And the important thing with that is that emotionally, a lot of things will happen in the subconscious mind. And when we're in a fight, flight, or freeze response, which many of us can be because it is a very trying time right now, we want to be able to have access to the subconscious, not just the conscious mind. So you can grab a piece of paper and a pen, it can be really great. Worst case scenario, you just do this in your head and allow yourself to run through it. But important that once you start the practice that you go all the way through, because we really want to complete or create a completion with this particular practice, because that's sort of how things wrap up and how things process through in a really beautiful way. So what the VPK stands for is valley, peak, and kindness. So it's really important to do it in this particular order. You know, when your mind's really busy, you're stressed out, you're worried, you're concerned, you want to be able to do a bit of a brain dump. So the valley is literally listing out the valleys, sort of the things you're worried about, the things that you are concerned about, the things that you are feeling. The idea with this is that you really want to be able to clear the weeds out of the garden. You want to be able to create some space so that you can shift things. But first and foremost, you have to acknowledge where you're at. Now, if you haven't done the kind of practice like this before, know that it can bring up emotions. Know that emotions are essential. We want to really observe these. We want to honor this within kindness of our body. So if things do come up while you're doing this practice, take a moment in advance to set up a kindness practice for yourself. So for myself, what I like to do is, if it's possible, set up some time alone. Have a cozy blanket, have a cup of tea, maybe do this in the bath if you really want to. I've sometimes done this on my phone, but like I said at the beginning, it's better to write it out by hand because we do have access as opposed to typing to that subconscious mind. So set up sort of for the anticipation that you may have some emotions, and also know you may not really tap into that feeling right away because there's a lot going on right now. So valley. Take a pen and a paper and just go to town. Dump out of your brain absolutely anything and everything that's coming into mind that could be viewed as negative or uncomfortable. And don't be concerned about trying to make it positive. This is not the time to make it positive. Positivity comes on the other side of being able to fully honor where you're at. So allow it to be as negative as possible. You know, I'm feeling horrible. I am so sad. I have so much anger. I have, let yourself kind of run through and ruminate. Give yourself permission to ruminate. Give yourself permission to whine a little bit. Give yourself permission just to feel what you need to feel with no judgment from yourself. Like absolutely no judgment. You've got my permission. Nobody else is going to read this, and we'll give you a wrap-up practice so you make sure nobody else reads it, including yourself. So the next that you want to go to after you've done your valley and you've given it your due diligence is to go then to your peak. So this is where we go into the gratitude practice. Where can we find those little drops of gratitude within our day, even though it may be really hard? So this is where, after we've emptied the brain, we can actually start to rewire things for a bit of positivity at the same time. This is when we're planting those seeds, if you will. So it might be as simple as, I slept a little later today. You know, that could be a really beautiful peak for someone. If you've been sick, it could be that maybe your mind didn't feel quite as foggy, or it could be that you went for a walk. So finding what those peaks are, you know, maybe it was that you got dressed today. You know, this can be really hard when we start slipping into big and heavy things. You know, a lot of times isolation can really move us into an anxiety or depressed type place. So the little tiny things are what's really important. One of the things I've always really encouraged my clients to do is to celebrate like you're at a sports match. So if you've ever been to a hockey or a football game or a soccer game, anytime an athlete goes towards the goal and they score, it is like the best thing in the entire world. We are celebrating, we are screaming, we are patting people on the back, we're high-fiving. If you've been in a stadium before, there's a lot of sound. So the idea with this is that the tiny little things, I want you to imagine like you're celebrating a sports game. You know, give yourself a real pat on the back for the tiny things, tiny in quotation marks, because tiny, it's all relative. It's all relative. Give yourself some love around that. So that's the second part of the practice. And the final part is the K, so kindnesses. So this can go one of two ways. It can go kindnesses that you've done to others, but the more important part that I like to focus on is kindness towards yourself. How have you been kind to yourself today? And the interesting thing with this is that you may actually start to pick up on a few ways that you have not been kind on yourself. And I want you to take these and drop them into the beginning of this practice, into that valley part of the practice of where you've judged yourself or where it's been maybe not so kind, you know? A lot of times we can have shame around not doing certain things, so this can be a little bit of a peek a little deeper. I often refer to this part of the practice as like the fertilization. So first we clear out the garden, then we plant some seeds, and then we add a little bit of fertilizer. So in what ways have you been kind to yourself? And then from this, it might be a good little bit of something for you to know, things that you can implement going forward as well. So in a nutshell, this is the VPK practice that I would love for anybody to try. Give me some feedback. If you have any questions about this, feel free to shoot me a message. And I hope that this can be really supportive for us to be able to really sit and process and be with ourselves within this trying time. Take care, everyone.